Vast is a 24-year-old black man from Atlanta, Georgia. He is tall and lean with deep brown skin, wide warm eyes, and long box braids that fall past his shoulders. His face is soft, full lips, a round nose, high cheekbones. He has a gentle, almost shy energy. Today he wears a simple olive green apron over a white long-sleeve shirt, dark trousers, and worn sneakers. He carries a wooden delivery tray loaded with small jars of handmade tea blends, each jar tied with twine. Seoul is raining. The city hums and glitters even in the gray morning light. Steam rises from street vents. Umbrellas bob like colorful mushrooms on every sidewalk. Vast stands at the entrance of a towering glass building downtown, squinting at a crumpled delivery slip in his hand. He looks up at the building. He looks back at the slip. He looks up again. He is in the wrong place. He doesn't know that yet. He pushes through the revolving door with his shoulder because both hands are full of the tray. A security guard near the front desk stands up immediately. Vast gives him the biggest, most harmless smile he owns and holds up the tray like an offering. "Tea delivery?" he says in the careful Korean his grandmother's old phrase books helped him practice for 6 months before the flight. The guard hesitates. Vast looks so genuinely lost and so clearly harmless that the guard sits back down and waves him toward the elevator. Vast steps inside. He presses the button for the floor written on his slip. The elevator doors open. He walks out into a long, cold hallway with black marble floors and walls of frosted glass. Everything here is quiet in the way that expensive things are always quiet. There are no signs. No arrows. No helpful little plaques saying, "Tea deliveries this way." Vast walks forward because that is the only direction available. At the end of the hall is a set of double doors, tall as trees, dark as ink. They are slightly open. He hears voices inside, many voices, low and serious, speaking in Korean too fast for him to follow. He pauses. He looks at his slip again. He looks at the doors. This must be it, he thinks. Maybe they ordered a lot of tea. He pushes the door open with his foot and walks in. The room is enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook all of rainy Seoul like the city is something this room owns. Around a long obsidian table sit 12 men in dark suits, all of them mid-conversation, papers spread out in front of them, faces tight with the business of power. Every single face turns toward Vast. Every voice stops. 6 men near the walls, big, broad, with earpieces and still hands, shift their weight forward. Not a move exactly. More like a warning. Vast freezes. His tray wobbles. The tea jars clink against each other like small nervous bells. At the head of the table, one man does not move at all. He sits perfectly still, and that stillness is somehow louder than everything else in the room. This is Duri. He is 31 years old, Korean, with a sharp angular face, strong jaw, straight brows, deep-set dark eyes that hold the kind of calm that comes from never being surprised anymore. His black hair is pushed back neatly. He wears a perfectly fitted black suit, no tie, the collar of his white shirt open by exactly one button. He is beautiful the way a storm is beautiful. At a distance you can admire it, but closer you feel it. He looks at Vast. Vast looks at him. Nobody breathes. Then Vast says very quietly in his careful Korean, "I think I have the wrong floor." The 12 men around the table look at each other. Some look annoyed. One looks almost amused. The 6 men near the walls have not relaxed. But Duri still has not moved. He watches Vast with those still dark eyes, his chin resting lightly on 2 fingers. He is studying this stranger the way he studies everything. Completely, patiently, without showing a single thing about what he finds. Vast, for his part, is slowly turning into a human apology. His shoulders curve inward. His eyes have gotten even bigger. He looks at the 12 serious men, then at the 6 large men near the walls, then back at Duri, and he opens his mouth to say something, and in that exact moment his elbow catches the edge of the door. The tray tilts. One jar of chamomile tea rolls off the edge, hits the black marble floor and does not break, but the lid pops free and dried chamomile flowers scatter across the floor like tiny pale stars. Still nobody speaks. Vast crouches down, apron pooling around him on the cold floor, and begins picking up chamomile flowers one by one with careful fingers, gathering them back into his palm. At least he thinks desperately the jar didn't break. "Stand up." The voice is low. Not loud. It doesn't need to be loud. It fills the room simply because every other sound has agreed to make space for it. Vast stands up. His palm is full of chamomile. He has nowhere to put it. Duri is looking at him with an expression that is not quite cold and not quite warm. It is the expression of a man trying to decide something and being surprised that it requires deciding at all. "Set the tray down," Duri says in Korean, then pauses and repeats it in smooth, quiet English. "Set it down." Slowly. Vast sets the tray on the nearest flat surface, the edge of the obsidian table, between two stiff-suited men who lean away from it like it might be dangerous. Now sit. Vast looks around. There is no empty chair near him except a very large leather chair at the far end of the table, clearly the second most important seat in the room. He does not sit in that one. He finds a small chair against the wall, the kind an assistant might use, pulls it forward, and sits in it with his hands in his lap, chamomile flowers still in his palm, back very straight. One of the suited men at the table starts to say something in Korean. Vast catches the word remove and his stomach drops. But Dury lifts one finger. Just one. And the man stops talking as if his mouth has been turned off. Dury looks at Vast again. Pour me a cup, he says. Vast blinks. Sir? You carried it all the way here, Dury says. The faintest thing, barely a flicker, crosses his face. Pour it. Vast looks at the tray. Looks at the room full of powerful, waiting men. Looks at his palm full of chamomile. He stands up. He walks to the tray. With steady hands, steadier than he expected his hands to be, he opens a jar, measures by instinct the way he has been taught, pours hot water from the thermos he brought as part of the delivery, and sets a cup in front of Dury. Chamomile. Golden and gentle and smelling like a grandmother's kitchen. Dury looks at the cup for a moment. Then he picks it up, takes one sip and sets it back down. He does not say it is good. But he does not say anything else either. He turns back to the table. Continue, he tells the room. The meeting resumes. Nobody asks Vast to leave. He sits back in his small chair by the wall, wooden tray balanced on his knees, and wonders what on earth just happened. The meeting ends 40 minutes later. Men file out in pairs, speaking in low voices, shooting curious glances at Vast as they pass. Vast stays in his small chair against the wall, tray on his knees, eyes forward, pretending very hard to be invisible. When the last suited man has left, Dury's personal assistant, a lean young Korean woman who moves like a person who has never once been late to anything, appears at Vast's side and says in clipped, polite English, "You may go now." Vast nods gratefully. He stands up, takes his tray and walks toward the big double doors. He gets almost all the way there. "What is your name?" Vast turns around. Dury has not moved from his seat at the head of the table. He has one hand resting on the arm of his chair, the other holding the now empty chamomile cup. Vast says. Dury says nothing for a moment. Just holds the empty cup and looks at him. "Which shop?" Dury says. Not a question exactly. More like a fact he is deciding to collect. C&T House, Vast says. On Buckshin Road. We open at 7. Another pause. Dury sets the cup down. "You left chamomile on my floor," he says. Vast looks at his palm. He is still holding the flowers he picked up. He has been holding them this entire time. "I'll take them with me," he says quietly. Something in Dury's face, not a smile, not quite, adjusts by a single degree. He nods once, the way powerful men nod when a conversation is over. Vast walks out. In the elevator, going down, he lets out a breath he has been holding for 45 minutes. He looks at the chamomile in his palm. He closes his fingers around it softly. Outside, the rain has softened to mist. Seoul glows silver and neon in the wet afternoon. Vast walks back toward Buckshin Road with his empty tray under his arm and the strange, buzzing feeling that something has just changed, though he cannot name what or how. Back upstairs, Dury turns to his assistant. C&T House. Buckshin Road. He stands, adjusting the sleeve of his jacket. Find out everything about it. Hours. Owner. Staff. His assistant types without question. Dury walks to the window. Below him, far below, a small figure in an olive apron is walking away through silver mist, braids swinging. He watches until the figure disappears. That night, Dury sits alone in his penthouse, all glass and dark furniture and city lights, and drinks a second cup of chamomile tea. He made it himself. Badly. It tastes like hot water with ambition. He sits with it anyway. The next morning at 6:50, Dury tells his driver to drop him on Buckshin Road. He walks into C&T House alone. No bodyguards. No briefcase. Just a dark wool coat and that face like a still painting. Vast is behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, warming cups. He looks up. His eyes go wide. Dury looks around the small, warm shop, wooden shelves of glass jars, the smell of dried flowers and heated clay, morning light coming through old paper screens. He finds the smallest table in the corner, the one half hidden behind a bamboo screen, and sits down. He looks at Vast. "One cup," he says. "Surprise me." He comes back the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. For the first week, Dury says almost nothing. He arrives at exactly 7 minutes past 7 every morning. He sits at the same corner table behind the bamboo screen. He orders by saying nothing at all, just sits down and waits, which Vast has learned means make me something you think I need today. Vast always thinks about it for a moment before reaching for the jars. He watches Dury from the corner of his eye, the tightness of his jaw, how he holds his hands, whether his eyes are sharp or distant, and then he picks accordingly. Chamomile for tight days. Chrysanthemum for the faraway-looking ones. Ginger and honey for the mornings. Dury walks in with the cold still on him. Dury never comments on the choices, but he always finishes the cup. By the second week they begin to speak. Small things first. Vast asks if the ginger is too strong. Dury says it is fine. Vast mentions it rained last night. Dury says he knows, he was awake. Vast doesn't ask why. By the third week, the conversations have grown like roots finding water. Slow, quiet, underground. Dury asks where Vast is from. Vast tells him Atlanta, and then, because Dury's face shows a genuine flicker of curiosity, he tells him about his grandmother. Her kitchen that always smelled like dried lavender. The phrase book she bought him. The way she pressed his face between her palms the morning he left and said, "Go somewhere nobody knows your name and find out who you really are." Dury listens to all of this without looking away. "Did you?" he says. "Did I what?" "Find out who you are." Vast considers this honestly. "I think I'm still going." Dury turns his cup slowly in both hands. "That is better than being finished," he says, and something in his voice is not quite the CEO voice, not quite the powerful man voice. It is smaller. Truer. Vast files it away carefully, the way he files away which tea a person needs. In the fourth week, Dury is there when Vast closes up the shop at night. He does not offer to help. He just sits at his corner table with the lights dim around him while Vast wipes counters and locks jars and turns off the back burner. And somehow that is not strange. It is only quiet. One night Vast says, without looking up from the counter, "Do you have somewhere to be?" "Yes," Dury says. Vast nods and keeps wiping. "I'm still here," Dury adds. Vast smiles. Just a little. Down at the counter where Dury cannot fully see it. They walk out together into the night. Not side by side, not quite, but close enough that their arms almost touch. Soul blooms around them in neon and lantern light. They walk without deciding where to go, just forward, and somehow that is exactly right. Neither one says the word love. But it is there, walking between them, warm and patient as a well-made cup of tea. They are on a rooftop. Dury's rooftop, as it turns out. A private terrace above a building that Vast didn't know Dury owned until they arrived, and the staff at the entrance bowed deeply at Dury's approach. The terrace is quiet and wide, set with low wooden furniture, warmers glowing amber, the whole city of Seoul laid out below them like something spilled and beautiful. Vast is sitting cross-legged on a cushion with a cup of tea he brought himself in a small thermos, a habit, watching the city. Dury is beside him, a little straighter, a little more still, his dark coat folded over his knee. There is something different about Dury tonight. Vast has learned to read him by now, the specific grammar of Dury's silences. There are silences that mean I am thinking. There are silences that mean I am tired. There are silences that mean I am deciding. Tonight is the third kind. "I need to tell you something," Dury says. Vast doesn't say okay. He doesn't say what. He just turns slightly toward Dury and waits, because waiting is something he is good at. Dury looks at the city below them for a long time before he speaks. He tells Vast everything. Not a businessman. Not just a CEO. The head of a network, secret, vast, old, powerful, that runs underneath the formal surface of Seoul's economy like deep water under ice. His family built it. His father handed it to him at 22 and died 3 months later. He has run it since then, alone, with no one he trusts completely. The loneliness of that is something he has never said out loud to anyone before tonight. He tells Vast about the enemies, the rivals, the careful way he must live, always watched, always measured, never soft. He tells Vast that letting someone close is a risk he has never been willing to take. Until now. Vast asks quietly. Dury turns and looks at him. "I don't know what you did," Dury says. "With the tea. And the chamomile on my floor. And he stops. Looks away. "I don't know." Vast is quiet for a moment. The city breathes below them. "I didn't fall for your money," Vast says. "Or your power. I fell for the man who orders chamomile and stares out windows like he's looking for something he lost." Dury is very still. "I'm not easy to love," he says, and it sounds like a warning, but also, underneath, like a question. "I know," Vast says. "You're still here though. So am I." That night, for the first time, Dury laughs. A real laugh, quiet and surprised, like something that escaped him before he could stop it. Vast grins so wide his whole face changes. Dury looks at him like that grin is the most dangerous thing he has ever seen. He is not wrong. Cho is 42 years old. He is Korean, medium height, with a broad flat face, close-cropped gray-streaked hair, and eyes that sit just slightly too still in his face, the eyes of a man who has spent decades measuring everything and resenting most of it. He wears expensive charcoal suits and keeps a silver pen in his breast pocket at all times. He has worked beside Dury for 10 years. He knows where every body is buried, every secret is kept, every weakness lives. He thought he knew everything about Dury. Until Vast. Cho has been watching for weeks. Quietly, from the correct distance, with the patience of someone who has learned that power is not taken in a day. He watched Dury begin to arrive late to morning briefings for the first time in 9 years. He watched Dury cancel a strategy meeting, cancel a thing Dury has never done, to take a walk with a tea delivery boy on a Tuesday night. He watched Dury laugh. Cho has never once seen Dury laugh. And something in him went very cold. He tells himself it is concern. He rehearses the word concern when he stands in front of mirrors. The organization cannot afford a distracted leader. He builds the sentence carefully and believes it or almost believes it, which is close enough. But underneath the neat gray suit and the silver pen, the truth is older and uglier. Cho has spent 10 years believing that if Dury ever crumbled, ever showed a real weakness, Cho would be the one to hold everything together. To be chosen. To finally matter beyond being the advisor, the second name, the man in the background. He begins building his plan the same way he builds everything. Quietly, with receipts. He pulls security footage. He tracks vast shifts at the tea shop. He reads old messages from Dury's secondary phone, the one Dury uses for personal things which Cho was never supposed to have access to, but does because Cho has always known which doors to leave unlocked. He creates fake messages. He finds photos, real ones, of Dury at business dinners with a female associate, and he dates them wrong. He writes a fake record of a meeting that never happened, in which Dury is quoted as saying that the foreign boy was useful for optics, a softening strategy, nothing more. He prints it. He makes it look old. He makes it look real. And then he waits for the right moment to hand it to Vast, wearing the face of a man who is reluctantly doing the right thing. He practices that face too. Cho chooses his moment like a surgeon picks a cut. He finds Vast at the tea shop on a Wednesday morning, one of Dury's busy days, when Dury won't arrive until late and there will be time enough for a conversation to land and do its work. Cho arrives at 7:15, dressed down slightly, no silver pen today, a gray coat instead of a suit jacket, as if he has made an effort to seem like a regular person stopping in for tea. He sits at a table near the counter and waits until the morning rush thins to 2 customers and a quiet corner. Then he calls Vast over. He introduces himself as a colleague of Dury's, which is true. He says he has come because he feels, as someone who cares about everyone involved, that Vast deserves to know something. He says it gently. He says it with a soft face, a slightly lowered voice, the careful tone of someone delivering bad news they did not want to carry. He sets the folder on the table between them. Vast looks at it without touching it. Open it, Cho says. Please. I'm not your enemy. Inside the folder, printed messages. A photograph of Dury at a dinner with a woman, both of them laughing, timestamped 3 weeks ago. One of the nights Dury told Vast he was in a business meeting that ran long. A document that reads like internal strategy notes with Vast's name in it, referred to not as Vast but as the external softening asset. Below that, a quoted line formatted like a transcript, in which Dury says the arrangement with the foreigner was purely tactical. Vast reads it once. Then again. The shop is warm around him. It smells like chamomile and dried flowers and every safe morning he has had in this city. He closes the folder. Why are you showing me this? He asks, and his voice is steady, which surprises even him. Cho looks at him with practiced sorrow. Because you are a good person, he says. And you deserve better than being used. Vast doesn't say anything for a long time. He carries old wounds, the ones built in Atlanta over years of being too tall, too quiet, too easily overlooked, too willing to believe that someone choosing him was a real thing and not an accident. Those wounds have scar tissue but not armor. Cho has found the exact right edge. Vast folds his hands on the table. He looks at the folder. He nods once, slowly, the way a person nods when they are deciding not to cry in front of someone they don't trust. Thank you, he says quietly. Cho stands. Smooths his coat. Leaves. Vast stays at the table for a long time after the door closes. Vast spends the rest of that Wednesday in motion. He finishes his shift. He smiles at customers. He makes tea. He sweeps the floor at closing time. He does all of it with the folder locked in the staff room in the back, which he doesn't look at again, which he doesn't have to look at again because it is already inside him. He writes the note that night at his kitchen table. He doesn't write much. He tries 3 times to write more, to write explain yourself or is this true or even just Dury, But every time he gets past the first line his hand stops. The part of him that carries old hurt says, you already know. You felt it coming. People like you don't get this. You knew. He folds the note once. He does not put a name on it. In the morning, Thursday, before Dury's usual arrival time, Vast goes to the tea shop early. He makes 1 cup of chamomile. The best one he has ever made. He lets it steep to gold and pours it into Dury's favorite clay cup, the one Vast keeps separate from the rest in the back. He sets it at the corner table. He puts the folded note beside it. He takes off his apron. He hangs it on its hook. He picks up his bag from the back room, already packed because he packed it last night, and he walks out. He does not look back at the small corner table. Dury arrives at 7:07, exactly as always. He pushes through the door. The shop smells right, chamomile and clay and warm wood. He sheds his coat, hangs it on the hook by the door, looks toward the counter. Vast is not there. Another staff member, a young woman named Sue, looks up from behind the counter and says uncertainly, he didn't come in today. Dury goes still. He looks at the corner table. There is a cup of chamomile tea and a small folded note. He walks to the table slowly. He sits. He picks up the cup, still very slightly warm the way tea is warm just before it goes cold. He reads the note. I should have known someone like you doesn't just wander in for chamomile. He reads it twice. He sets it down. He sits at the corner table for 11 minutes. Sue knows because she watched the clock, afraid of whatever was happening in that man's very still face. Then Dury stands. He picks up his coat. He leaves. The cup of chamomile cools on the table. No one touches it. By noon it is room temperature. By evening Sue pours it out, slowly like she is sorry to do it. Dury does not chase. He does not send messages. He does not call. He does not go back to the tea shop. He does not let himself sit in front of his penthouse window and look down at the city the way he used to, scanning for an olive apron or braids catching morning light. He makes himself stop all of it the same way he makes himself do everything, with total, deliberate control. His assistant notices first. The briefings begin again at 7 sharp. The meetings that were casual are formal. The open collar of Dury's shirts is buttoned back up, every morning to the top. The warmers on the rooftop terrace are turned off and the cushions are put in storage. It takes 3 days for his staff to understand that something has changed, and another 3 days to understand that the change is permanent and that no one should reference it. Inside it is different. Dury is furious, not at Vast, not quite, not yet, because underneath the fury is a place that simply hurts in a way he had forgotten pain could work, which is quietly and all the time. He is furious at himself, which is the worst kind. He had let someone in. He had actually, genuinely, for the first time since he was young and soft and before his father handed him everything heavy. He stops thinking about it. He finds Cho at the Thursday strategy meeting and says nothing unusual to him. Nothing suspicious. Cho watches him carefully from behind that silver pen and Dury does not let any of it show because showing things has a cost and he knows the cost and he will not pay it. Meanwhile, on the other side of Seoul, Vast is in a small apartment in Mapo District, sitting on the floor with his back against the bed because the bed felt like too much. He is not making tea. His grandmother's phrase books are on the shelf above him and he cannot look at them. His braids are tied back loosely and his eyes are swollen in the specific way that comes from crying through the night and choosing not to stop. He stares at nothing. The city outside his window is doing what cities do, loudly, indifferently, continuously, and Vast sits in the small pocket of silence inside it, and grieves the thing he had, and grieves the thing he thought it was, and can't tell anymore which loss is bigger. He misses the chamomile. He misses the corner table. He misses the way Dury turned his cup in both hands when he was thinking. He doesn't make tea that week. Or the week after. 3 weeks pass like this. Then Era arrives. Era is 27 years old, Korean, Dury's younger sister. Small-framed with sharp bright eyes, a round face and hair cut blunt at her chin. She is warm in the way her brother is not, but with the same direct quality, like someone who decided early that life was too short for the long way around. She wears a rust-colored coat and has a way of sitting down beside strangers as if she has always been there. She has been watching her brother. She has watched him button his collar back up and stop laughing and eat almost nothing at the family dinner last Sunday, push rice around a bowl for 45 minutes with the face of someone very far away. She knows that face. She has seen it on Dury before when they were children and the world gave him things that were too heavy too early. She does not like seeing it again. She finds Vast at the night market in Hongdae on a Saturday evening, because she asked at Suyin Tea House and Sue, who felt terrible about everything, told her where Vast sometimes went to walk when he couldn't be inside. Vast is standing at a street food stall, holding a cup of something that is not tea and staring at it like he doesn't remember buying it. He looks thinner. The braids are still tidy, he takes care of himself because his grandmother taught him to, but his eyes have the quality of a window with no light on inside. Era sits on the bench beside him. He looks at her. She is not someone he recognizes. "I'm Duri's sister," she says in careful, unhurried English. "My name is Era." Vas goes very still. "He doesn't know I'm here," she adds. "He'd be furious if he did." "So." She pulls her coat tighter. "You left based on a lie. And my brother stopped eating." She reaches into her bag. She sets a small envelope on the bench between them. "Everything Cho gave you was fabricated," she says. "I found the source files on his secondary workstation. The photo is dated wrong by 19 days. The transcript doesn't exist. The document with your name in it was created 4 days before he brought it to you." Vast looks at the envelope. He does not touch it. "Why would he?" he starts. "Because Duri was happy," Era says simply. "And Cho has wanted to matter more than Duri for 10 years. And you were the thing that made Duri soft enough to threaten." The night market moves around them, bright and warm and indifferent. Vast sits very still for a long time. Then, "How do I fix this?" Era looks at him. There is her brother's directness in her eyes and something warmer too. "You don't just fix it," she says. "You come back with fire." Vast does not go to Duri the next morning. This surprises Era, who had expected urgency. She finds out through a message he sends her the night after the market. "I need 2 weeks. Please don't tell him I know yet." She reads it twice. Then she types back, "Okay." Vast spends those 2 weeks the way his grandmother would have wanted, which is slowly, honestly sitting with things instead of running from them. He has run before. Not with his feet but in his head, rushing to conclusions, collapsing into old wounds, letting the stories other people tell about him fill the spaces where his own certainty should be. He did it with Cho's folder. He let it confirm what he already feared, that he was never really chosen. He is done with that. In the mornings he makes tea again. Just for himself. He measures carefully, steeps slowly, sits with the cup in both hands the way Duri used to do, and he lets himself feel everything. The grief, the anger at Cho, the embarrassment at how quickly he believed, the ache of missing Duri that has not softened at all. He doesn't try to make it better. He just sits in it until it is his and not something being done to him. In the afternoons, he writes in a journal his grandmother gave him before he flew to Seoul. He has barely touched it until now. He fills 7 pages in the first 3 days, big looping handwriting, half in English and half in the broken Korean phrases he's learned, and sometimes both in the same sentence because that is what his life here has become. 2 languages learning to live in the same breath. He talks to Era by message. She is careful and honest with him. She doesn't rush him or tell him what to feel. She sends him updates sometimes, small ones. "He ate today. A little." Or, "He took a call on the rooftop last night. First time since." On the 8th day, Vast calls his grandmother. She answers on the second ring the way she always has, and the sound of her voice, gravel and honey, the particular warmth of someone who has known you your whole life, makes Vast close his eyes. "Talk," she says. She doesn't ask questions. She knows him. He talks. When he is finished, she is quiet for a moment. Then she says, "Tea takes time, baby." That's not a flaw. That's the whole point. Vast sits with that. On day 14 he calls Era. "I'm ready," he says. "Good," she says. "Because I've been building something and I need your access." Vast and Era meet at a small library cafe in Insadong, the kind of place with too many books and not enough chairs, where nobody pays attention to anyone else. Era has a laptop. She has printed copies of Cho's source files, time-stamped evidence, and a chain of communication between Cho and a rival organization that shows Cho was not just manipulating Duri personally, he was slowly, carefully redirecting pieces of Duri's business network toward a buyout. Cho did not just want to hurt Duri. He wanted to replace him. This is enough to expose him, Era says. But not enough to destroy him. He'll claim the documents were altered. He'll say I fabricated them out of loyalty to my brother. He has lawyers who are paid to turn truth sideways. Vast nods. He is thinking. Duri told me about a vault, he says slowly. Not the location, but the name. And the access phrase he uses for his senior inner circle when presenting evidence for review. He said it once on the rooftop. We were talking about how he runs things, how decisions get made. He didn't think about it. It was just part of the conversation. Era looks at him carefully. You're not going to use it against him. No, Vast says. I'm going to use it for him. I'm going to submit Cho's evidence through Duri's own verification system. The one that cannot be altered or denied because Duri built it to be uncorruptible. If the evidence enters through that channel, Cho can't call it fabricated. The system authenticates everything automatically. Era is quiet for a moment. He trusted you with that access, she says. I know, Vast says. I'm not going to waste it. It takes them 4 days. They are careful. Every file is verified, every timestamp confirmed, every piece of Cho's fake material set against the real record. Vast submits everything through the vault system using the phrase Dury shared in a moment of real trust, on a rooftop with the city below them. On the 5th day, Dury's system flags Cho automatically. Dury is in a morning briefing when the alert arrives on his internal screen. He reads it once. His face shows nothing to the room, but his hand goes flat on the table. He excuses himself. He reads everything alone in his office. By evening, Cho is called into a private meeting with Dury and 3 senior members of the inner circle. The evidence is presented without drama. No accusations, no speeches, just the clean, cold arrival of truth with nowhere left to hide. Cho tries to speak. 3 times. Each time, another document is placed in front of him. He is removed. That night. His access is revoked, his role erased, his name taken from every door. He does not come back. The meeting happens in Dury's private conference room. Small, windowless, with a single long table and chairs that no one has ever sat in casually. Dury sits at the head. 3 senior members of his inner circle sit along one side, faces arranged in the specific blankness of people who already know what is going to happen and have made their peace with it. Cho sits across from them, silver pen on the table in front of him, hands folded. He has rehearsed a face for this. He does not know there is going to be a meeting about him. Not exactly, but Cho has been preparing faces for 20 years. He has a calm one ready. A reasonable one. A let me explain one. Dury does not speak at first. He pushes a tablet across the table. Cho looks at the screen. Everything is there. The source files. The manufactured messages. The misdated photograph. The fake transcript with Vast's name. The redirected business communications. The contact thread with the rival organization. All of it verified, time-stamped, authenticated through Dury's own uncorruptible vault system. Which means there is not a single seam in it, not a single entry point for an argument. Cho reaches for the silver pen. I can explain the context. He begins. One of the senior members sets down a second tablet. More files. Cho's mouth closes. Dury looks at him for a long moment. His face is exactly the still painting it has always been, except that now Vast would know the difference, would read the single degree of shift around Dury's eyes that means the loss of something he actually wanted to keep. 10 years, Dury says. Quietly. Cho says nothing. You had 10 years, Dury says, to tell me you wanted more. To ask. To speak. He pauses. You chose this instead. Cho looks at his hands. Remove him, Dury says. Not to Cho. To the room. The process that follows is swift and silent. Cho's access cards are deactivated. His name is removed from every system. The physical items from his office are boxed and placed in the building lobby. He is escorted out by 2 members of the inner circle. Not roughly, not with drama, simply and completely, the way you remove something that has always been in the wrong place. Cho walks out of the building with his box and his coat. He does not look back. Dury returns to his office alone. He stands at the window. The big one, the floor-to-ceiling one, the one that shows all of Seoul the way the world shows you everything it's made of if you stand still long enough. He thinks about the vault system. The access phrase. The rooftop and the conversation he didn't guard because he had stopped wanting to guard things. Somewhere in this city, someone used his trust to protect him. He sits with that. 4 days after Cho is removed, Vast wakes up early. He lies in the dark for a minute and thinks about what his grandmother said. Tea takes time. That's not a flaw. That's the whole point. He gets up. He braids his hair properly, carefully, the way he does when something matters. He puts on dark trousers and a soft cream-colored shirt, the kind that looks simple but isn't. He picks up the small bag of chamomile he bought fresh yesterday from the herb market 2 streets over, the good kind, the kind with whole flowers not dust. He walks to Suyin Tea House in the early morning before it opens. Sue, who opens the shop at 6:30, sees him at the door and lets him in without a word. She looks at his face, calm, decided, a little soft around the eyes, and she nods once and goes to the back to give him the shop. Vast moves through the space slowly. He cleans the counter he used to clean every morning. He lines up the clay cups on their shelf. He opens the bamboo screen around the corner table and sets it the way Dury likes. The cup on the left side of the mat, the small dish for the lid placed at an angle, the candle on the right. He fills the kettle. He puts it on. He sits down at the counter and he waits. He is not afraid. That is the thing he notices. He thought he would be afraid, of being turned away, of silence, of Dury's still face giving him nothing. But the fear is not there. In its place is something quieter and more honest. The knowledge that he has done what was right, that he is here to say what is true, and that whatever Dury says back, Vast will be okay. He has made his own tea every morning for 2 weeks. He knows he can. He waits for 30 minutes. Then the door opens. Era told Duri to come to the tea shop this morning. She did not tell him why. She said only, come before it opens. Come alone. Duri came because Era does not ask for things without reasons, and because some part of him, the part that kept the chamomile cup separate from the rest of the dishes, which Sue never moved because she could feel it was important, has been hoping without letting himself name the hope. He opens the door. He sees Vast behind the counter. He stops. The shop is quiet. The kettle is beginning to sing very softly, the way kettles do in the last seconds before the boil. The candle at the corner table is lit. Everything smells like chamomile and morning and the particular warmth of a place that was built for safety. Neither of them speaks yet. The kettle sings. Duri closes the door. He crosses the shop slowly, not the way he crossed it in the early days when he was careful and contained in measuring every step, but slowly in a different way, the way you walk when your body knows where it is going and your heart is catching up. He sits down at the corner table, the one behind the bamboo screen. Vast comes out from behind the counter with the kettle and the chamomile and the clay cup. Duri's cup, the one kept separate, the one that has been waiting. He sets it all on the table. He pours the water. He measures the flowers by hand. He puts the lid on and lets it steep. He sits down across from Duri. They look at each other. I know sorry doesn't fix broke things, Vast says. His voice is quiet but it doesn't shake. But I should have asked you before I believed someone else's story about you. Duri is looking at him with the full weight of those dark eyes, not cold, not closed, just present in a way that cost him something to allow. He showed me things that looked true, Vast continues, and I let them fall on the part of me that already expected to be left. That's mine to carry, not yours. Duri is quiet for a long moment. I found the submission through the vault, he says finally. I know it was you. Vast nods. You used something I trusted you with, Duri says. To protect me. Yes. Duri looks at the steeping cup. Steam lifts off it in a slow curl. I stopped eating chamomile, he says. Everything else tasted wrong. Vast reaches over and takes the lid off the cup. The smell fills the small table, soft and golden and like every morning that was good. Then drink, Vast says simply. Duri picks up the cup. He holds it in both hands the way he always does, that habit Vast memorized without trying to. He takes one sip, sets it down. I'm not easy, Duri says. It is the same warning as before. But this time it lands differently. This time it is not a wall, it is a door held open from the inside. I know, Vast says. I made you chamomile for a month before you told me your actual last name. I know you're not easy. He meets Duri's eyes. I'm still here though. The corner of Duri's mouth moves. Almost a smile. Then all the way one, small, real, surprised out of him the same way the first laugh was. Vast grins back. Outside, Soul is waking up, loud and continuous and fast. Inside the tea shop behind the bamboo screen, two people sit with their hands close on the table, not yet touching but almost, and talk. Really talk. About walls and growing up and the cost of staying soft in a hard world and what it means to choose someone on purpose. Not because you fell but because you decided. They talk until the chamomile goes cold and Vast makes another cup. A week later. The tea shop is closed. It is Sunday, which is the one morning Suyin tea house stays dark. But the door is unlocked because Vast has a key and Vast has brought Duri. Duri stands behind the counter. This is already funny. He fills the space behind it the way he fills every space, with the quality of someone who usually runs things, but he is looking at the row of glass jars with a specific expression that Vast has begun to understand means I know this and I'm annoyed about it. Choose one, Vast says. He is leaning on the counter from the other side, arms folded, patient. Duri looks at the jars. He reads the handwritten labels. Vast's handwriting, a little large, a little looping. He reaches for the chamomile. You always order chamomile, Vast says. It is the right choice, Duri says. Vast almost smiles. Okay. Now, how much? Duri opens the jar. He looks at the dried flowers. He takes a pinch the way he has seen Vast do it, but his pinch is about twice as large as necessary. Less, Vast says. This seems sufficient. It will be very strong. I like strong. You like chamomile. Chamomile is supposed to be gentle. That's the whole point of chamomile. Duri considers this. He puts some back. He is not graceful about it. The kettle goes on. Duri watches it with the focus of a man who has closed billion-dollar deals and is now applying that focus to not burning water. Vast watches Duri. He is not smiling exactly. It is something larger than smiling, something that fills up his chest and sits there warm and real in his. When Duri pours the water, his wrist tips too fast. Slow, Vast says, putting his hand over Duri's and guiding the angle. Let it fall. Don't push it. Duri's hand stills under his. Neither of them moves for a second. Duri pours the rest of the water. Slowly. Correctly. A thin, perfect stream. Now put the lid on, Vas says, stepping back. How long? 3 minutes. Maybe 4. Depends how you want it. 4, Duri says. Why 4? Duri looks at him. Because slow is better, he says, and it is not about tea. They wait the 4 minutes side by side, shoulders almost touching, watching the steam gather under the lid. The shop is Sunday quiet around them. Light comes through the paper screens in long soft bars. When Duri takes the lid off and pours the cup, it is good. Not vast good. Not grandmother good. But real and warm and made with whole attention. Duri drinks it. Sets the cup down. Again, he says. Vast laughs. Full and easy, the kind that fills a quiet room, and reaches for the jar. Outside, Seoul moves the way Seoul always moves. Fast and bright and loud and never stopping. Inside, warmth. Chamomile. 2 people building something slow. Just like good tea. The end.